Hello. I just tried to film this video and it turned out terrible. So we're going to try again. But for some reason the phone slipped and so it was like this part of my head and then the rest was the ceiling. Okay, here we are. Hi guys, I'm Jess. If you're new, welcome. I'm going to assume you're not new if you're watching this video because this is a really informal response to an Instagram post I shared yesterday about mental health. And so all I'm going to do now is just answer questions people sent. They sent them on the comments. I had like 45 comments on that one, and then people DM'd me, and then I even got a text message from a friend that had some really beautiful questions that I'm going to answer for you guys because I really care about the topic of mental illness or mental wellness, mental sanity. And I would love to talk to you about it. And so the fact that you guys wrote questions for me is super motivating to be like, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want to talk about, let's talk about it because this stuff is so important and changes everything. So we're in the Very Good Mothers Club office right now. It is, not the shiniest backdrop, but happy to have you here. My pleasure to have you here. I'm going to jump right into that's so YouTube-y, right? I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to just begin talking about the stuff that is a little bit heavy and weighty and deep. But my hope is that you walk away actually feeling lighter and feeling more seen. So here we are. I posted yesterday that a few years ago, I was meeting with a psychiatrist. For some of you who know the backstory, you'll remember I did a 10-day outpatient program in a mental hospital in Michigan, outside of Detroit, where my husband's family lives. We were there visiting for Christmas, and I confessed that I was feeling suicidal and that my depression had gotten so bad that I really believed that my daughter, who was 2 at the time, would be better off without me as her mom. And when I told my sister-in-law that, she very lovingly drew near to me and was like, you do not have to feel like this. We can get you help. And she helped us find an outpatient program where I went in for a psych evaluation and then was admitted for this 10-day program. It was an outpatient program, so it means I got there in the morning and left in like the mid-afternoon, and it was group therapy and meeting with a psychiatrist and meeting with counselors, and it was really good. It was really good. If you want to hear more about that, you can go watch the 10 days in a mental hospital video. But the main point that brings me to this video is that while I was in there, I met with a psychiatrist who was trying to figure out if I was depressed, was I bipolar, was I anxious, like what's going on with my mind. I had been prescribed an antidepressant that didn't work. It made me feel worse than before. And so they were asking questions about bipolar. They determined that bipolar disorder is in my family, and so it was very likely that that's what I had. And they said, if that's what I have, then that's what Eloise has. And Eloise was 2 at the time and showing no signs of any sort of mental instability whatsoever, but basically just saying like, if you have this, whether it's bipolar or depression or anxiety, it's very likely your children or your child is going to end up with this thing. So in the moment, I am so aware of how this counselor or psychiatrist sees me. And I was like, I do not want to look like a crazy person. I'm sure they think I'm a crazy person because I'm in this outpatient program. So I'm like trying to be really serious and really put together. And I'm like, okay, sure. You think I have something, blah, 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 that my daughter's going to have, and I'm going to be medicated for the rest of my life because that's what I was told. I ended up leaving, crying by myself in the bathroom. And then that night crying in bed to Sean and being like, why was I even allowed to have kids? Why would I be allowed? Why would my body even be fertile? Why would God do that? Just like, yeah, I was so sad that my daughter, who I loved so much, I love her so much, I couldn't imagine that she was going to have to face what I was facing. And it just felt totally unfair. And like, why would I be a mom? And why would I ever have more kids? I would never want to put them through that. It felt like I was broken, that I was being told like, hey, you're broken and you just broke another person. So how are you going to deal with that? That's what I was hearing, even though that's, I'm sure, not what they meant to do. Anyway, I got medication that worked. I got a counselor. We changed our lifestyle around a bit. We made sure I was meeting with a psychiatrist regularly. And I ended up being medicated for roughly 9 months. I don't remember exactly, but ish. And then weaning off of it, I was feeling better. Ended up getting pregnant with Wilson around then. I remember at that time, some people had written me like, why would you do this to another child? Why, if you have been so mentally unwell, why would you put yourself through this again? The whole pregnancy postpartum thing. But then also, why would you potentially bring a human into the world that's going to face what you're facing? So that was something I saw the comments come. I don't think I responded. Maybe I did. I can't remember. If you're the one who left them, you could tell me. But then pretty soon after I had Jules, and so now I have a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and I am not depressed. I am not anxious in the sense that like I have anxiety that you would medicate. I am sure I'm anxious and stressed, as many of us are, which is part of why I want to talk to you today. But what I shared in my post yesterday was that I am no longer afraid of my kids ending up struggling with any sort of mental illness or mental unwellness, whatever you want to call it, mental instability. I'm less afraid of that. And what I want for them more than anything is that if they ever struggle with something like that, that they would feel a safe place to come back to, where there isn't shame, where there aren't going to be people who are talking to them like top down versus like eye to eye. You know, there's something about a person being over you and not understanding you and being like, this is what you ought to do with your life, or like, this is the decision we're going to make for you. Or someone being like, hey, how's this? Like, what are we feeling? Let me in here. How can I walk alongside you and figure out with you what to do in this situation? And so, yeah, I mentioned in the post that what I think is harder than just feeling terrible is feeling terrible and then not feeling safe to let people in to what you're going through, whether it be because you're going to be judged or shamed, or you just feel like you're going to be misunderstood. So I hope for you, I hope for my kids, I hope for myself that there will always be people for us that are safe places that we can go to when we feel that we are at our worst. And then those people can love us and support us and help walk us back to being who we are when we're our best, most well selves. Okay, so when I shared that, I got some questions and I thought the questions were really great. So I'm going to go into those questions. But one thing I thought I should say to you is that in recent months, some of my dearest friends who have never struggled with mental illness their whole lives, like at all, and some of them are older than me, some of them are younger than me, some are like roughly my age, they have struggled intensely with mental issues like panic attacks, severe anxiety, overwhelming depression, debilitating fear, where they feel like they just can't function. And I'm seeing this over and over and over again. And I want to tell you that if you relate it all to that, you're not crazy. I think part of the reason why we're facing this kind of chaos in our minds is that we've never lived through what we're living through right now, with the world stopping as we knew it, changing as we know, everything, like whatever was your normal a couple years ago flipped entirely. And some of you guys had kids during that time. Some of you miscarried. Some of you found partners. Some of you broke up. Some of you lost jobs. Some of you found jobs. Some of you feel totally lost, and it would be hard even if there wasn't a pandemic. You're in some sort of life transition. I don't know how old you are, but what I'm seeing a lot is that people transitioning out of their 20s into their 30s are feeling a sense of like, whoa, what am I doing? Out of high school into college, out of college into the next stage. If you're going through any sort of life transition, that also brings on a very natural anxiety, a very natural, like unsettling feeling where you're not really sure what's going on. So if you compound all of this, a pandemic where people were dying, maybe loved ones of ours, or maybe not, maybe just people out there, and we're wondering what's going to happen to people we love. There's constant conflicting ideas, and you get on any sort of internet anything or turn on the TV, you're going to find people arguing with each other, politics being really insane, just all kinds of issues. You've lived through the last few years too. really polarizing issues that heightened everybody and triggered everybody so that we're all like on edge, ready to defend ourselves, ready to protect ourselves, viewing everybody else as like a potential contaminant or a potential enemy or a potential judge, or, you know, it's changed the way we are viewing things because we've been put in the situation that we didn't expect to come and aren't totally sure how we're going to get out of. I know that depending on where you live, this looks different for different people. So I'm in Los Angeles, so there's still like, you know, a lot of mandates and I don't know, just I won't go into details because I know that I have an audience that is very broad. So if you're in Europe, things look one way. If you're in Canada, things look another way. If you're in California versus Florida, we're going to have very different experiences of 2022 right now. But it's not easy for anyone. That's what I know. And I know that the feelings that we have of being anxious, of being afraid, of wondering what the future has, like all these what ifs. My friend was video messaging me this morning crying, being like, I just keep thinking like, what if one of my loved ones passes away? What if, you know, list whatever the worst fear is, that's what she's feeling all the time. And she's crying, being like, but I'm a joyful person. Like, I know that this isn't who I am. And yes, same. I think that is what so many of us are feeling, on top of anything else that might be hard in your own personal life, that would be hard no matter what stage of life we were in. And so I just want to speak that out, that this is really hard, that we've been more isolated, that we've been more kind of walking in this unknown for a long time. And it's really crazy. If you find yourself in a position where you are experiencing new things, like new terrible things, like a panic attack, for example, multiple friends said that happened to them in the last few months, or just really deep depression or dark swirly thoughts that won't go away, you are not going to feel like this forever. I think one of the things that's most scary about going into a really dark place in your mind is the fear that you'll never come out of that life will never be better, that you'll never feel like yourself again, or if you haven't felt like you're yourself for a long, long time, like that there's no light at the end of this tunnel. And I know that it feels like that. I know it because I felt it too. But the truth is, you are going to be able to get through this. You can. Your mind is resilient. Your mind can heal. There are resources available to help you get out of this. So hold on to hope. Hold on to the truth that you are somebody that's super valuable. You're so precious and needed, and your mind is good. And I know it feels like it's playing tricks on you right now, and it's not on your team, and that's so hard. But there's another side of this. And on the other side, not only are you going to feel more like yourself, but you are going to be able to love people so deeply with an empathy that just sort of like falls out of you, because you will remember what it was like to be in the pit, down in there, being like, is there ever going to be freedom from these feelings? And that is what our world craves anyway. We're longing for people to see us, to understand us, to try to understand us if they don't. The world is not looking for people to like talk over us and fight with us and tell us how we're wrong and tell us how we're crazy, or be like, I don't know, that does sound like a lot. You just seem like too much. No, the world needs people to really connect deeply and help walk people out of hard things and into good things. And you, by going through this really awful stage in your life, are actually being more equipped to be really good at loving people and helping them through. And if your kids ever go through a really horrible, painful, mentally messed up time of their life, do you know who's going to be perfectly qualified to understand them and sit with them and walk with them and offer tools and offer resources and be sensitive to their needs? It's going to be you. You are going to be so good at this. So for the sake of anyone, sorry, this is going to come out weird. If you can't hold on for your own sake, if you don't think you're worth fighting for, then fight for the other people who desperately need you to get through this time so that you can walk them through when they're in a similar time, because that's what you're going to be able to do. So, okay, Jessica's getting a little preachy. Sorry. I just really care about this, and I really care about you. And if I tried to just imagine your face, like I do sometimes, I imagine like who is the person watching my videos and what is their life like? And if I really get into who you might be, I could probably cry because I think this is so special. The fact that I can sit here in this room, in this house in California, and I can make a video that you can watch in the privacy of your own space, and you can hear me and feel me and know that you're not alone, because I need you to be okay, because we need each other, and our kids need us, and our friends need us, and our coworkers need us, and the world needs more people to go through hard things and recover from them so that we can be people who are resilient and whole and healed and capable of helping others. Like, it's so important. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Question number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Do you and Sean, or should parents in general, have a plan for if or when your kids go through periods of anxiety or depression? That's a good question, and no, we don't have a plan. But I will say that I feel really sure that if I stay tapped into my kids, like tuned into who they are, what they care about, what's going on in their lives, I will probably pick up on them not doing well faster than others. I may even pick up on it faster than Sean. I was watching this really interesting documentary, and this FBI agent was talking about kids getting caught in really weird, like where they have sexual predators online targeting kids. And the FBI agent said that one thing he has seen over and over and over again is that God's gift to kids is their mom, their parent, the intuition that their parents have when they feel something is off. He said, if you as the parent of your child feel like something is off, then it's off. Please trust that. And I loved hearing that. So that felt like, okay, cool. I'm going to pay attention to my kids. And if something is off, I can trust that it's off. And then I can do whatever we need to do to try and bring about wholeness and health and, wellness for the whole team, the whole crew, all of our loved ones. So I don't have a plan because I can't have a plan. My kids are so little, and I don't anticipate this being something we're going to face anytime soon, though I suppose it could happen sooner than I think. But as it starts to happen, plans will happen. And I think that if you're at all nervous about, like, will you know what to do if your kids are facing something like this? I don't know what to do either. You and I both were in the same boat. But I do think that when the time comes, my mind and my heart and wisdom, and I believe in the good Lord helping me, I believe that I will have the tools that I need to at least try to make the right choices for my kids. And I may try and fail, but then I can try again, because that's life, and we're people who are constantly going to try and fail. The next question was, should a plan, so this is the follow-up question, should said plan look like what you wish you had during the times when you had anxiety or depression? Like, did you want someone to notice you? Would your initial response to your kids to be super attentive or try and cater to what seems like they need in that time? That's a really good question. I could see my personality being one where I'm like all in, and then I might need to reel it back a little bit. But I would imagine that how you respond to your kids' mental struggles will be specific to the kid and kind of what they need. Because as a parent, you sort of learn the way to talk to each of your children. My oldest child is much more sensitive to the things I say than my second child. So I'm going to speak differently to her than I do to him. I think that will probably be true as well when we walk through some of this stuff. If you're a parent who's watching this and you have older kids, maybe grown kids, and you've walked through any sort of emotional struggle with your child, maybe you would want to leave some wisdom for us in the comments for those of us who have younger children and aren't there yet. Let's see. When you're out of depression, did you ever fear or have anxiety that will come back worse or stay? Do you have advice for those with that fear? Totally. Yeah, for sure. The longer it's been without it, the more my mindset has changed about that a little bit, to where I'm not afraid it's going to last forever because I feel like we have more control than that. And I also have researched this more now. And like, I really think that the work of Dr. Caroline Leaf is very helpful. If you want to look her up, she talks about how the brain can heal itself and be kind of rewired into healthy thinking. And I have followed her stuff for the last couple years and seen what she has to say to be true in my own life. So no, it doesn't scare me as much, but for those of my friends who have had recent onsets of like anxiety and depression and panic attacks, I see them having a lot of fear right now that this won't go away or that they're going to feel this forever. And so I think that that is a very common feeling initially. What I would say is once you've had a terrible experience with mental illness or mental unwellness or something, whatever variation that looked like for you, afterwards, you want to just stay aware of how you're doing. I think for me, my first, like most intense experience with this was like 5 years ago. And I was really in denial. I was really like, no, I'm going to power through. This will be okay. I'm going to act like I'm okay until I feel okay. I'm going to do everything as if I'm okay because I really believe I'm going to be okay. And I think I missed some really obvious red flags that I will not miss again because I've been there before and I saw how that played out. So now I feel more prepared. So there is like an uneasiness about it where I'm like, oh shoot, I hope this doesn't sneak up on me and take me over. But I mean, even a friend of mine who was in a mental hospital too, she and I went through this experience around the same time. She just recently started feeling some kind of weird, almost suicidal thoughts, and she immediately talked to her psychiatrist, immediately changed the dosage of her medication, and was able to handle it. So I feel like that's a really good example of somebody who was in tune with how she was doing, handled it right away, and is already doing a lot better. Your children will have what you have. That is so scary. Will you start to have a conversation with your kids about resources, your experience, and lifestyle before, or will you wait until they go through it? That's such a good question. I imagine it'll be something I talk about in their early teenage years, just because it's something I think about so much. And as they get older, I'm naturally going to start including them in more of the stuff that I think about. I don't know that I would be like, I'm going to tell you this so that you're prepared, but maybe sorta. But maybe I would like chill out a little bit because I don't want to go so hard that I'm giving them ideas for ways that they need to feel that they don't need to feel yet, if that makes sense. But I'm sure I'll talk about it because I talk about it to my friends, talk about it to Sean. Okay. Does it ever make you nervous that if your kids struggle with depression or anxiety, that it will be an instant trigger for yours to come back? I don't know. It doesn't make me nervous. I suppose it's possible. And probably what would need to happen is if I start to help them figure their stuff out, I should probably make sure I have a therapist if I don't already, just to make sure that I've got some outside input leading me through as I'm trying to lead them through. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to them struggling with this. It makes my stomach hurt. But yeah, I don't think my fear is that it's going to trigger me feeling terrible. My fear is more like, oh gosh, I hope they can get through this fast, because watching them suffer is going to be probably the hardest thing I've ever faced, I would imagine. Okay, let's see. What lifestyle changes did you make that helped you feel better? Okay, we were living in Spain. We had been there 1 year, and I was a fairly new mom. I was not being super social to the extent that I wanted to be. I wasn't learning Spanish as much as I wanted to be. I was very much with Eloise, and I was doing videos, which was fun, but I'm by myself, or I was with Becca, but she was not in Spain the whole time. I was with some friends. Basically, okay, what I realized upon leaving Spain for a holiday, and it was Christmas time, and then realizing like I'm actually suicidal, this is terrible, getting on medication, what we decided was if we're going to go back to Spain, where I was much more isolated than I was in the States, I wanted to be sure that I had a psychiatrist who spoke English that I could meet with regularly. I wanted to be sure that I had a therapist, and that Eloise was in a daycare or preschool of some kind for part of the time so that she could be making friends and so that I could have a break and be making friends. And that helped a lot. So I got all of those things and we were able to return to Spain. The other big thing that happened was I was no longer in denial. This was now really obvious that I was not well, that Sean and I could begin talking about it. Sean ended up getting a counselor after me, but around that time too. It was just like, it opened us up to having a lot more support, a lot more honest conversations, a lot more intentionality behind the choices I was making and the stuff I was doing. I also was exercising regularly, eating nourishing food, making sure I was taking vitamins. There are some vitamins you could look into taking if you want to. I'm no doctor, so do not do it because Jessica told you to do it, because I'm encouraging you to go look into it and then you can check for yourself. But GABA, L-theanine, and is it Redolio? That's Becca just told me about this one. But those are ones that can help with anxiety and just mood as a whole. And then I take magnesium at night, and that all helped. Medicine-wise, when I was first going on antidepressants, so this is before I said I was so suicidal that I needed help, like I needed urgent, immediate help, I went to a doctor, asked for an antidepressant, got on one, felt worse about, the mistake I made was that I got on one in California and then traveled to Michigan for the holidays. I would recommend, if you're going to go on an antidepressant, that you have your doctor there with you in the same city for the next month, so that if anything goes south, you can call them and be like, I'm not okay, and then they can immediately take care of you. I didn't do that, and I now see that was a really bad move. So I went on a medication, don't remember what it was. It did not work. I felt worse. Then I went on another medication, which was to treat bipolar. I don't know if I have bipolar. Even now, I'm like, maybe I do, maybe I don't. They didn't ask me that many questions to determine if I had it, but because it was in my family, they said it's probable that you have it. I don't know. But they put me on one medication, and then that medication had some issues, like in the long term, so I didn't feel comfortable with that. So then I switched to another medication, a very small dose, and it worked, and I was so relieved. It felt like, okay, every morning I woke up and my normal was really low, terribly low, and I would spend all day like trying to feel up, trying to feel like higher, and I would have moments that were happy, but I always knew I was going to return to feeling terribly low. When I went on this medication that worked, I remember waking up and it was as if my mind was going to go to the low place, and I got clotheslined. And I just was back, and I was like, oh, I feel okay. It was so awesome. So awesome. It wasn't like I felt high. It was like I felt like me. Like finally I was back. And then I could process through deep, dark, yucky, scary, gross, bad stuff. But it wasn't like I was plummeting into this spiral of depression each time. I was just looking down at this really dark stuff, feeling through it, kind of making sense of things, changing life around, and, getting restored for whatever I needed to do, and then feeling better. And I had already told my psychiatrist from the start that I would have liked to get off the medication if possible over time, if she thought I could handle that. And my psychiatrist in Spain was amazing and was like, yeah, let's try. Like, I don't believe you need to be on this for your whole life. If you do, there's no shame in that. But if you don't, then why keep you on it if you don't need to be on it? So that was lovely. And so she had me weaned down like after quite a few months, and she was taking copious notes every time we were together, making sure I was actually doing well. And yeah, and then she helped me wean off, and that was great. Okay, I don't know why. Was that the wrong answer? Oh, lifestyle changes. Oh yeah, so exercise, eating good, talking to people, having a therapist, having a break from my kids has been really helpful to me, but I don't think that's true for everyone. And having a job has been really helpful for me. But again, I don't know if that's necessary for everyone. I think part of it is being honest with yourself about what your own body needs and doing that. Okay, I already answered that one sort of. Around the idea of poor relationship with food, this is from my last couple YouTube videos. One of my biggest fears is that I won't be able to eat enough during pregnancy and I will have an unhealthy pregnancy or baby. What's your advice for someone who has the same fears, or like while raising kids, that you don't eat enough? I know that's a hard one for those of my loved ones who struggle with that. I do see that being so hard. it doesn't need to be a fear that makes you feel helpless. When you are pregnant, there is really something beautiful about the fact that you have this tender little life inside of you, and the way that you care for your body is going to affect how they turn out. And I have seen for a lot of people that just that fact is enough motivation for them to want to do the right thing. So like for someone I love very much who struggled with drinking a lot, drinking too much, don't know if they would say they're an alcoholic, but definitely has something around alcohol that made it hard for them to resist alcohol. When she got pregnant, she didn't even want to drink. In fact, after she had her baby, she was like, I think I'm good. Like that isn't who I want to be for this baby. Now she has since drank. This was years ago, but I just remember being impressed by the motivation just that having a baby inside of her brought. There is another piece of it where discipline comes in. If you aren't going to eat enough during pregnancy, there's going to be really real repercussions of that. It's not sort of like a vain, shallow, like, well, I just don't want to be a fat mom. Like, it's not that simple. The food that we eat is going to nourish our little one and is going to bring about health and life and make sure they grow properly. And this then becomes like overcoming whatever might keep us from eating and saying, no, as a responsible grown person, I'm now going to tap into discipline and eat enough. So whether that means we set ourselves alarms or we tap into a friend or our partner for accountability, or we prep food ahead of time so that we're not even having to think about what we eat, but we just have the food right there. There is that element to it that we may have to go to. So even if it's not a natural thing of us wanting to eat, the most natural feeling might be, I don't want to eat. I'm scared of eating. I don't want to think about this. But for the sake of this baby that you made and you love, you say, okay, I'm going to be disciplined for the next 9 months. And then once the 9 months are done, you go, okay, now I'm going to be disciplined for the next 3 months, and then the next 3 months. And maybe you don't make it like for the rest of my life as a mother, I'm going to be disciplined, but I'm going to make it smaller chunks and say, I'm going to eat enough for all kinds of reasons. One that really helps me when it comes to the way I take care of myself is knowing that my little ones are going to look to me as their example, and I want them to have a healthy relationship with food, and I want them to have a healthier relationship with their body. And so I lean into that idea when it comes time to do anything related to food or my body or exercise. Sometimes I want to undereat. Sometimes I want to overeat. Sometimes I want to exercise too much. Sometimes I want to just spew out a negative thing about my body. And then I'm like, hold your tongue. Your 6-year-old is watching, and she is going to decide how she sees her own body by hearing me talk about mine. And if I talk about it like I'm disappointed in my body, I'm disgusted in it, it's not a nice body, then she starts to internalize those ideas and make them her own about herself. Even if I turn around and go, oh, Eloise, you're perfect. She's like, I'm not. I'm not, because you don't think you are, and I look like you. And even if I don't look like you, I am part of you and you're part of me. And the little one is identifying themselves with their parent, even if the parent looks totally different. So even for an adoptive parent who might adopt a child that looks totally different on the outside, the child is still looking to the adoptive parent to say, how you see yourself is going to help me understand how I see myself. So that helps me a lot, because then I'm like, okay, this isn't about me liking me for me's sake, for my own sake. This is about me liking me for their sake. And I like them so much that sometimes the way that I like them actually affects the way I see myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like obsessed with these little kids. I love them so much. I think they're so beautiful and precious, and I love their bodies and I love their forms and everything about them. And then I start to be like, okay, what if I saw myself that way? What would that look like? Would I ever want my kids to skip a meal because I was afraid they were going to get fat? No, to be honest, I wouldn't. I know that some parents might feel that, but for me, I can't imagine doing that. If that's your struggle, we could talk that through. I get that. Anyway, I'm really talking as if you're right here in this room, so I'm sorry if this is rambly. Sorry. It fell on my computer. Okay, I think that's all. Also, I don't know how much storage I have left on my phone. If you are somebody who loves somebody walking through any sort of issue that's super hard, I want to caution you in the way that you handle their fragile, sensitive things. Something I noticed about my kids is if I come at them top down, if I'm like, hey, you need to change this, or you need to do this, or here's what I see that's better for you. If I come at them like, you're in trouble, I know better, their tendency is to pull away from me. Even if I'm right, their tendency maybe is run down the hall. Like, I have little kids, so I'm using them as an example. If I get down to their level and we're eye contact and I'm like, don't do this, or we're not going to do this, or we're going to take this away from you, blah, blah, blah. Even if they fall crying, I've noticed they fall into me. Like, they come to me for comfort, even if I'm telling them something that they don't like. And I say this because sometimes when you are the loved one of somebody walking through something hard, even if they've made mistakes that have gotten themselves, you're like, well, yeah, you're depressed. You chose to fool around with somebody who wasn't good for you, or you chose to expose yourself to something that wasn't good for you. Even if that's your thoughts, will you hush? Will you be quiet, please? Because if you want connection in this relationship, what that's going to require of you is to draw near and try to understand. That means listening. That means staying quiet when you feel like you have words to say. That means asking, like, are you wanting advice right now, or would it be best for you if I just listen? Because at some point, as you build trust and safety with them, there's going to be an amazing thing that happens where you get to speak out and share. And you might even be able to share, like, hey, that guy that you've been dating, he's just so bad for you. And I've wanted to tell you that. And at that point, you've got trust and safety and love there, and you can really do this together. But if you come at it like you're far away and you're somehow a judge, or even if you're like, hey, I love you, my heart breaks for you, and then you handle this badly, even if your motives are good, what is probably going to happen is distance in the relationship, and you've lost the ability to speak into their lives, to walk with them through this. And so I'm kind of seeing that in my own life, and I'm even learning from my own mistakes that I've made. With my sister, I see it. Sometimes I come at her like really aggressive, big sister mode, like, well, you shouldn't do this. And then automatically she's defensive, or I'm like, hey, this is how things are going to be. I've made these decisions for you. She's like, what are you doing? I'm a grown person too. And you saying this makes me feel like you don't understand me. And here I might be coming like so full of love, but the way I'm making her feel is not loved at all. So something's off, and I think the problem's with me. So when I come at it differently and I'm like, will you help me understand this? Will you, like, what did I just say that triggered a bad feeling? What did I say wrong? Sometimes I even will make a joke with my sister, and then I think I'm being like funny, like lightening a heavy thing. And she's like, that felt passive aggressive. And I'm like, oh crap. I didn't mean for that to be passive aggressive. I meant for that to be a light way of talking about a heavy thing. But now that you say it, I could see how that sounds passive aggressive, and I'm sorry about that. So just like, if you want to be with people who are going through hard things, be with them. Don't be at them. Don't like come at them, come over them. Be with them and listen and give advice when it's wanted, but stay quiet more often than not. There's a verse in the Bible that I like a lot. It says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And I think that's wisdom, just as a whole. No matter what you believe about the Bible, that's a really good strategy. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. There we have it. So, okay, that's 38 minutes of Jessica just talking. Hopefully it serves somebody out there. I wish I could hug you. If you ever want to talk, maybe we could like do a thing where, I don't know, I could talk on the phone with you. I probably would have to, I don't know. Okay. All right. I'll just verbally process elsewhere, and then I'll come back with the opportunities. You guys are so great. I believe in you. Please stay healthy, stay alive, take care of yourself, take care of your people. It's all going to be okay. We're going to get better. Okay. You're doing great.